Story 1. We were 15. He broke up with me because he was not feeling it after 2 years. I was devastated. This guy was the love of my life. Then, not a week later, he was in a relationship with another girl. I remember it being very traumatic, but I do not remember why. Story 2. She is dead now, but it was a simple misunderstanding. Things were tense, and we were talking when I asked her, "Do you want to break up?" She said yes. For a good decade, each of us thought we had been dumped by the other until we met up some time later and talked it out. Story 3. Her dad was a Mormon police officer and gradually made it more difficult for us to see each other until pretending we existed in the same world became too frustrating. A long-distance relationship within the same school zone. Story 4. Had to sneak away while my ex drove off in a rage. I called my friends to come pick me up before he returned. He was very abusive, and I was scared for my life. Story 5. She let me down gently by saying she just wanted to be friends. In retrospect, I was emotionally very immature when I was 16, and she clearly wanted someone who was not, so she made the right decision. I was heartbroken at the time, of course. We ended up reconnecting about 20 years later as friends and remained so for the rest of her life. Story 6. She was domineering and more experienced, unable to let go of feelings for her two exes who both promised to marry her. She cheated on them both, as I learned later. She ended up cheating on me too with the same man. They eventually got married. I originally asked her on the phone if we could work on our relationship since I felt it had been shaky lately, or if she wanted to break up. She said she couldn't continue outside of occasional physical contact. In the long run, I dodged a bullet, but it hurt me for years. Story 7. He was always around, always. I was 15 and he wanted to be my constant companion. I definitely wasn't mature enough for it, but I also came to understand that I need my space in a relationship. Story 8. Online. I was 12, he was 28. Different country. He said he felt bad for pursuing me. In real life, I was 15. I broke up with him, gave him a dumb excuse like, I lost feelings. But I really broke up with him because I had cancer and I didn't want it to hinder his life. He was planning to go into the Navy, and I knew he would have stayed behind if he had known. So I did what was best for him so he could pursue his dreams. I checked up on him once. He had gotten a divorce and seemed sad, but he had the most beautiful little boy with his hair and eyes, blonde and soft blue-gray. I'm really happy for him. Story 9. This was in high school. We were infatuated as much as freshmen in high school could be. Some upperclassmen swooped in and I got upset. Story 10. The real reason. He wanted to get back together with his ex for the 5th time. She dumped him again within a month. The reason he provided when asked was, "You hold your fork wrong. My 15-year-old cousins think it's weird. And if they are talking about it, my whole family probably is." Story 11. He lost the spark and didn't know that love is not only a feeling but also a choice. To communicate, to work on it, to adjust, to make small compromises together. He actually didn't know. I had to tell him and saw the confusion on his face for about 5 seconds. His answer was that he made his choice and had to stick to it. Well done, you lost someone who did all of those things for you. We're talking about a 30-year-old man who was just chasing sparks and excitement. I will never give anyone a chance who shows any signs of infatuation before we start dating. Story 12. She cheated while on vacation and tried to continue with both of us. He was living 50 miles away. She got really mad at her best friend for telling me and mad at me for finding out. Goodbye, Han. Story 13. About 12 years ago, he went to a church camp and cheated on me. The girl came out as a lesbian a few years later. Guess who tried to match with me on the dating app? Yes, she knew that I existed. Story 14. First of all, you must know that his name was Pancho. He was my neighbor. I was in grade 6 and he was in grade 9. He did not give me a reason why, but it was definitely because he went to school and got made fun of for dating a literal child. Broke my little heart at the time. I remember once, years later, I was walking to meet a friend and he saw me. He pulled over and insisted I let him give me a ride to wherever I was going. No, I could clearly see where I was going, less than a block away. There was a small back and forth before I just kept going. He worked with my dad at the time and complained to him about my rudeness. What an absolute fool. Story 15. I moved to another city for school. It was not a very serious relationship anyway. She was great, and I could have handled it better. I was very selfish when I was younger. Story 16. We were in first grade, and her parents found the letters we wrote to each other. She told me her parents wanted her to focus on her schoolwork. Story 17. He told me to quit hanging out with my best friend because he thought she might be a lesbian. I chose my best friend, who treated me right, over my boyfriend, who did not. My friend was just chubby and awkward with boys at the time, and who isn't awkward in their teenage years? Years after high school, she came out as bisexual, and yes, we had a sweet night because I had realized I was some sort of queer a few years earlier. Nothing ever happened back in high school, and we mutually decided we did not want to risk ruining the friendship by trying to date. We went right back to being just friends after that night. Story 18, 11th grade. She was emotionally unstable due to childhood issues, and I did not have enough respect for myself also because of childhood issues to walk away when she was acting up. We eventually fought enough that I gained the courage to leave the relationship. That was a significant step in building my self-esteem, so I have no regrets. Story 19. After months of trying and fighting, one night he said, "Are you trying to say I am abusive?" When I rolled my eyes and shrugged, it was over. Story 20. Originally, it was because the relationship was not going anywhere. We had a talk, and our goals were vastly different. Even if that talk had not happened, it would have ended anyway because I found out she was talking about me behind my back and cheating on me. Story 21. Yet another late-night call, getting yelled at on the phone for not calling him before bed. I got upset, and he again said, "We can also break up." I said okay. Story 22. I started drinking. Not problematically. I had just turned 21 and could now drink, so she broke up with me. Story 23. Religion. She was a fairly religious Baptist. I am an atheist. I went to church with her a few times to see if I could get anything out of it, but I did not. One day after service, it just ended. Breaking up sucks, especially the first time, but this did not hurt too much because I knew it was never going to work. Story 24. Life got in the way. We met at 14, became a couple at 15, and were together until about 6 weeks after high school ended. When we met, we were two kids who liked each other a lot. Then we fell in love and spent 3 great years together. By the time senior year was ending, I was about to join the army to pay for college after my enlistment, and she was going to a very good university on a full academic ride. She was, and still is, very smart. We did the math, so to speak, and realized we had an expiration date unless one of us gave up our future to stay together at the age of 18. We both knew that doing that was unwise, so we decided to stay together as long as we could and then put it in fate's hands. We were together until the last night before I left for boot camp. I will never forget sitting on a park bench that we had frequented during our time together for the last time. We sat together, held hands, and talked about the future. I dropped her off at home, pulled out of her parents' driveway, and that was it. Story 25. We constantly got into arguments over everything. It was always something that I did wrong, and it got to a point where I was emotionally drained when I was with him. I recognized that I needed to end it when we were intimate, and I felt nothing, only wanting it to be over. Story 26. The first breakup I had was in 6th grade. They expected me to pay for them automatically. They were saying things to make me mad, so I said something back and ended the relationship. Story 27. He was addicted to cam girls and chatted with them as well. Then he blamed me because we were in a long-distance relationship and could not have sex as often as he needed. Also, he was a total mommy's boy, and she hated me. Story 28. I was a 15-year-old. I got physical with a different girl. It was the only time I was unfaithful in a relationship. Story 29. We were 16 in our sophomore year of high school, and she was the first girl who ever expressed interest in me, so I asked her out. By the end of sophomore year, many girls were expressing interest in me, and I enjoyed the attention and did not want to be in a relationship anymore. I broke up with her after school at the place we always met before her parents picked her up. I remember her getting into her mother's SUV and looking back at me with tears in her eyes as she closed the door. That was the end. Story 30. We were both going through tough times. She was becoming dependent on drugs, and I was too depressed to leave the house, let alone try to prevent her from going down that path. Eventually, on a phone call, we mutually agreed that things between us were over, but not in a hostile way. It was pretty civil. She is doing better now from what I have heard. Story 31. My first boyfriend would block me for weeks because he had exams. I don't think it was that difficult to text me for 5 minutes during exams. It's not like he wasn't going to use his phone at all. I lost interest in him because of it and realized it was not worth it. Story 32. We were both lesbians, but she was Muslim and had religious doubts. She broke up with me because she believed it was wrong for us to be together. Story 33. Anger, frustration, and uncertainty in my life as a late teenager led to my high school sweetheart and me breaking up. It was honestly a fantastic relationship to have so early in life. I am glad I have grown and learned from that. She really was very sweet and a good partner at the time, and she still is. We are still friends. I am actually getting over some heartbreak right now, and I really enjoyed reflecting on this. Thank you. Story 34. We grew apart is the general answer, but I guess we fell out of love. I did not understand the whole "I love you, but I am not in love with you" concept until I lived it. I still do love him, which made it very hard for me, and for both of us really, to recognize that we did not have that romantic spark anymore. I did not realize until I started dating that I did not want him that way, and neither did he want me that way. Story 35. Even if we were schoolmates, I never allowed that person to come near me. We just talked through the phone the whole time of our relationship, or it was not a relationship anymore. It was a phone plan. I think that was the reason we broke up. Story 36. I was in high school in a boring suburb and did not know what to do after a while. There was a point when we went to every movie that was out because that was all there was to do around with a Mormon, and we broke up out of boredom. Story 37. I entered my first relationship just after graduating high school in 2004. For reference, I was 17, turning 18 in August, just before my freshman year of college, and she was just shy of 16. We had a great time together over summer vacation, but the moment I turned 18, I started feeling uneasy considering the implications of me technically being an adult. We kept the relationship going about a month into my first freshman semester, her junior year of high school, but we drifted apart. I wanted to enjoy college and honestly felt uncomfortable dating someone under 18, even though I was barely 18 myself. We kept in touch over the years and casually hooked up a few times once she was well into her college years. We are still friends on social media. She is now 36, married, and lives abroad working for the United States Department of State with her husband. Story 38. After 5 years together, she started hanging out with some new friends. They were all wannabe rich, obnoxious people. I told her I would not hang out with them, and she should not either. We started fighting over it. She wanted me to accept her new friends, but I hated them. I ended everything because of it. 2 years later, she called saying I was right about them and we should get back together. But that was far too late. Story 39. It had been almost 2 years. She visited her aunt's home for a wedding. The next day, she texted me that she had met her ex there, and he was devastated to see her. They went into his car, and he cried on his lap while hugging her. I was devastated, but I loved this girl so much that I was willing to stay. Fast forward 3 days, she cut contact during my final exams. I was already devastated by what had happened. This was the final nail in the coffin. I scored miserably on that exam but somehow made it through. Apparently, she is dating somebody else these days. Further, around 6 months after the breakup, this girl had the audacity to text me, "I'm sorry if I ever hurt you. My life isn't going well these days. I just thought because of how I treated you, you wished something bad on me." Like what? And it gets worse. Fast forward another 6 months. I met this girl, a year younger than me. She was interested in me. I was scared but willing to give it a try. Our group and her group went on a kind of hiking trip and picnic. Everything was nice. I was having fun. I saw her talking to one of the girls from my friend group. I didn't give it any importance because why would I? Later that day, after we were back, she texted me, "Your friend told me about your breakup. I feel sympathy for both of you." I was like, "For both of us?" The reason I was about to fail my exam, the reason I still dread the mirror to this day, the reason I can't trust anybody is her. And you have the audacity to feel sympathy for both of us? She cheated and left me even after I stayed. I blocked her that day. I have never looked at a girl since. Story 40. We started when I was 17 and he was 36. Now I understand that was wrong. After about 1.5 years, I realized I had stopped loving him and had to tell him that. Story 41. Apparently, he couldn't handle having someone who accepted everything about him. He also claimed we had communication issues regarding not speaking enough but told me I talked too much. People constantly messaging him annoyed him. He is 20 years old, by the way. Story 42. After being together for 10 years, married for 6, this was my first breakup. He had become extremely disrespectful and manipulative, to the point of threatening to take his own life if he had to do anything around the house or actually be responsible. There was also drinking and financial abuse. Story 43. I had to cancel a date last minute because my stepbrother fell out of his window and I was the only one home. So I stayed with him until my dad and paramedics arrived. My then boyfriend was furious because I prioritized my stepbrother, who was not even blood related, over him. I could not have broken up with him faster. Story 44. He was like my shadow, no joke. I was 16, and this person legitimately showed up everywhere I went. School, the mall, even my favorite coffee spot. I was not ready for that kind of clinginess, and honestly, it felt suffocating. Looking back, it taught me that having your own space is not just a want. It is a necessity in any relationship. Story 45. He was 18 and I was 25. I told him many times that this age gap was problematic, but somehow he kept pursuing me. I relented and gave the relationship a chance. As time went on, the age gap revealed differences in life experiences, personal stances, priorities, and his thrill of the chase in getting into a relationship with someone like me. He was a typical young adult, inexperienced in the world, unable to engage in mutual healthy communication, and held unrealistic expectations about sex and relationships based on pornography and stereotypes. When I was involved, I tried my best to adjust to him, but after a year, he ended the relationship. After that, he tried many times to reconnect, expressing regret over breaking up with me. As far as I know, even 10 years later, he is still single. Throughout our discussions, he often lamented letting someone like me go. I reminded him that he was inexperienced in romance and setting realistic expectations back then, so he shouldn't blame himself. It was a matter of communication and learning. I told him he should try his best to move on. I hold no grudge against him, nor do I regret the relationship. I see it as destiny bringing us together to help us grow, to foster reflection through our failure to stay together. Now, I have been content with my partner for 5 years and our relationship is still strong. I use the term content because not every moment is happy, but we use those moments as opportunities to foster mutual growth and understanding. Every conflict leads to resolution and repositioning of ourselves within the relationship. The meaning is always negotiated, compromised, and then translated into how we commit further. I wouldn't ask for another man. Story 46. We disagreed on Harry Potter. He thought Slytherin was the best house. I thought Gryffindor was the best. The fate of the relationship was sealed. Story 47. We had sex. I hated it, I bled. It was painful and I was crying. He ignored me when I pleaded to stop. I did not want to be touched again, and he did not like how much of a drama queen I was. I was 17 and he was my first everything. Story 48. I stopped responding to everyone, including her, because I was a depressed child and did not want to talk to anyone. Story 49. I was 18 in my first year of college. He was 21, just out of the army. He wanted to get married and start having children. I said no, and that was that. We were both raised in a conservative church. I wanted to experience life before settling down with children. In retrospect, I am sure he satisfied his desire to experience life during 4 years of traveling the world. Story 50. I was having gallbladder surgery and stayed in the hospital for a week. She never visited me. The Dave Chappelle skit about the wrap it up bit played in my mind, and that was it. Story 51. When I was 14, my online boyfriend lived with me for a month and cheated on me over 6 times. He was psychotic and a narcissist, but he finally left and I blocked him. He created hundreds of different phone numbers and messaged my family on social media to contact me. But he eventually stopped. Story 52. It was the summer between leaving middle school and starting high school. She and I were in a long-distance relationship. Her parents caught us sending what we considered at the time pretty spicy texts. No pictures, thankfully. They were very upset and ended our relationship. However, after some time and communication between parents, we got back together until she realized that long distance was not for her, and we ended things for good. Story 53. This girl told my friends to tell me we had broken up and ghosted me from then on. 12 years later, I still hate her. Story 54. High school girlfriend, dated from 18 to 20 years old. She ended the relationship several times over the 1.5 years we were together because she liked to play mind games. The last time she did this, I was about to attend a full 4-year university, so I told her I was done and blocked her on all platforms. She told friends that I was going to cheat on her in college and tried to use their phones to call me but was denied. Then I was informed about everything. Story 55. He said, "I love you," the day he asked me out and also said it in front of his mother. I broke up with him 5 days later because he got too lovey-dovey too quickly. I was 16. I found out he cheated on me during those 5 days. After I broke up with him at school, he posted on Facebook about how he needed a real woman. He was 19. Story 56. You are not the person I fell in love with anymore. I am heavily depressed and this close to committing suicide. Thanks for checking on me, not really. Also, right after, they started dating someone they met at our last anniversary dinner. Story 57. I did not want to lose my virginity at 14. Male couple, by the way. I could not imagine how difficult my life would be right now if I were born as a woman. Story 58. We were 17. He was being weird and controlling. He hated that I didn't boast about my intelligence or brag about my IQ. I had an eating disorder, and he told me it was a good thing because it kept me skinny. After weeks of intense therapy, I decided to order a Happy Meal at McDonald's, but he refused to give me my food. As I became increasingly upset, he insisted I calm down before giving it to me. I got out of the car at a stoplight and started walking home. I refused to get back in the car until he agreed to drop me off at my nearest friend's house. When he did, he tried to follow me inside with my food, and I told him he could keep it. Story 59. After being in the relationship for well over a year, she sounded distant on the phone and then said she was not dating anymore. Story 60. My first real relationship was from age 14 to 15. I was in a gay relationship with a boy named Aiden who was a year younger than me. It was going fine until one day when I honestly kind of blamed myself for what happened. I was telling him about how another boy in school was obviously flirting with me and wanting to have sex with me even though I had a boyfriend. I was mostly telling him so we could have a short laugh and move on. But he replied by saying, "Well, that makes sense though." In that moment, being a young dramatic teen, I did not take that comment well. I was angry because I thought it was wrong that he did not think the boy was inappropriate, but instead said it made sense that he wanted to have sex with me even though I was not single. It was not like I argued much. It was over in less than 2 minutes, but I had already said what I said, and he broke up with me almost immediately after. Story 61. We never really broke up, kind of. In 9th grade, we bonded over being weirdos. It was the first voluntary sexual experience for both of us. Not actual intercourse, but I spent a lot of time fingering and going down on her, which was generally not reciprocated. At the start of our 10th grade year, she had a nervous breakdown. It was severe enough that she was placed on medical hold for about a week. We didn't talk for months. I assumed she had moved on. I got a new girlfriend, She took my virginity and then dumped me to date an older man she was cheating on me with. Then the first girl showed up again in my gym class at the beginning of 11th grade. I was puzzled and unsure what to do. I didn't want to be in a relationship with her because it felt doomed. She gave me a note saying how happy she was to see me and how glad she was that we were still together. I spent the entire day writing and rewriting a letter basically saying, "I didn't hear from you. I thought we were over. I have had a whole relationship since I last saw you. I want to be friends, but I don't think we should be together." She handled it not great but better than I thought. She immediately started dating a semi-friend, then dumped him when she realized I didn't care. I think about her often. I suspect things went badly for her after school. I saw her only once, and she was with a man and a woman as part of a throuple. The man was very upset that we knew each other and were talking. Story 62. We caught her father cheating on her mother with the assistant when I was 12. He made her break up with me because I was a witness, I guess. We ended up dating again in 12th grade. Story 63. When I was 15, I broke up with my girlfriend because I wanted to explore instead of being unfaithful to her. Being honest damaged my reputation. Story 64. He was always out of my league. We were together for over a year. When he was accepted into a special honors program at our high school, he started hanging out with girls who were much cooler than me, and that was the end of it. Story 65. In 6th grade, she told me that teasing was flirting, then broke up with me 2 months later for teasing her. Story 66. When I was 18 years old, my girlfriend of 1 year broke up with me to date a man in his mid to late 30s who was an online mutual acquaintance. It was awkward. He lived in another country, and within a year, she had moved there and married him. I'm not entirely sure what happened between them, but I know she is now using her maiden name, so I assume they divorced. I can only assume they had been talking for a while before the breakup. I did not even know they communicated privately. Before the breakup, we had been planning to go to college together. Story 67. She decided that while studying abroad, she did not need to stick to weekly calls or anything if anyone she was with wanted to do something. "Hey, I have not talked to you in 2 weeks, but these people I am living with full-time right now want tapas, so I am getting tapas." Sometimes she would not even let me know, and I am just sitting in front of my computer alone, waiting. Then, when I told her that I expected her to be more respectful of my time and to at least try to put in some effort, she said I was being controlling, then went and stuck her tongue in some other girl's mouth. Story 68. His mother hated me because her son was paying attention to someone else. After a year, he could not handle the pressure she was putting on him, so he broke up with me. Story 69. We started dating the summer before I went to college. She went to a different high school and was about to be a senior. A few months into the semester, it was hard to keep the spark alive with the distance. She was planning to go to a college far away, so the distance would only get worse. Technically, she broke up with me, but it was definitely the right move. While we stopped talking after the breakup, I hope she is doing well. Story 70. She cheated on me with someone who had fish eyes. I was very sad, and then she wanted me back, but I refused. Story 71. Yes. 5 years later, he told me he broke up with me because he was hoping I would fight for him. I gracefully respected his decision. Story 72. I was 14. I had a boyfriend 2 years older than me. My family, especially my grandparents, liked him a lot and both families got along well. I thought it was enough when he became obsessed with me. I had to be with him at all times. In public, he needed to have his arm around my waist constantly. He had a very annoying habit of playing with my hair strands to the point that I almost got bald in a specific spot. Also, he, who used to be the popular guy at school, I was the nerd, became very jealous of everything and everyone. There were many red flags. Story 73. He wanted to move way too fast, and I realized I did not want my friends to see him if he visited me during summer break while we were in college. I did not want to be boyfriend and girlfriend right away. We started dating at the end of the semester, so I do not really count him. I broke up with him. The first time I was dumped, it was because I did not sleep with him. Story 74. I did not have feelings for him. He was a friend who had feelings for me. He confessed his feelings and kept asking me out. I eventually gave in and decided to give it a try, but I could not feel the same way he wanted me to, so I ended it. Story 75. First real breakup? We had dated for 4 years, and I felt like I was settling as a sophomore in college. I wanted someone active and fun, and she was not those things. It sucked getting to that realization because nothing was wrong. One random Monday, I just walked to her dorm and did it out of the blue. Story 76. It was an on and off relationship. I ended it after 3 years because I realized we were both quite toxic for each other and not compatible at all. Story 77. She was dancing closely with me at the 8th grade dance, and I started to get erections. I did not know that was okay, so every time I began to get an erection, I would run away and say I was tired. The next day, she ended our relationship because I kept avoiding her at the dance. Story 78. I have a silly one. In junior high, he broke up with me because his sister was taking him to a Jerry Springer show taping in Chicago that weekend. I just laughed. Still makes me laugh. I guess he wanted to keep his options open. Story 79. My boyfriend broke up with me because I was pulling him away from Jesus. It turns out he had been sleeping with his ex throughout our whole relationship. Story 80. Invited me out with her and her gay friend. Completely ignored me or gave one-word responses. By the end of the night, I knew this would not work. Story 81. Her best friend, like a sister to her, used to constantly hit on me. I was friendly with her, and honestly, I never really stopped it. Maybe I enjoyed the attention too. The three of us used to study together in the same tuition class. One rainy day, my girlfriend was absent, and while cycling home, we had to take shelter in a roadside house because of the rain. I couldn't control myself, and we became intimate after some flirting, which she started, by the way. After that, it became a regular thing. She would even give me oral sex on the bus whenever my girlfriend was absent. Eventually, my girlfriend found out and broke up with me. I know it was completely my fault, but this all happened during my puberty years when I just couldn't control myself. Story 82. He invited both me and a girl he met to the library. They went out for a break. An hour later, I got a text saying that he is now dating her. Story 83. We started dating on Microsoft Network Messenger and then were afraid to talk to each other in real life. We broke up because going out is too hectic. We were 11 years old, and the whole thing lasted about 2 weeks. Story 84. He has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism and could not cope with being in a relationship. At the time, it absolutely broke me because I, of course, loved him. We are still friends now, and I am getting married to someone else this year. My life has worked out so much better. Story 85. She told people in our class we were together. We were together only in Facebook direct messages. As someone who was and still is very embarrassed about anything couple or public display of affection related, I couldn't take that. This was in 5th grade. Story 86. My mother hated her so much that I had to choose between dealing with her for the rest of my life or giving up on my love. Story 87. My mother told me I should not be exclusively dating one boy, that I should be getting out there and having fun with lots of people. So I broke up with the boy I was dating and then spent the rest of my high school years regretting it. Story 88. Not my first, but my second boyfriend. He told me he did not wash between his cheeks in the shower. I broke up with him 2 weeks later. Story 89. Her ex-boyfriend came crawling back to her, and she missed him very much. With teenagers, the new and shiny thing isn't as fun if you can't break it that easily. Back then, for some reason, I was too self-aware to let teenage girls break me like they were used to. I lost a lot of girlfriends because I didn't throw tantrums when they wanted me to, no matter how hard they tried to make me do it. Story 90. I was 15 and he was almost 17. He knew I was Mormon and started making jokes about soaking, having sex, and making out. I hate physical contact, and he got very mad when I said that I wouldn't have sex or anything until I was married. Red flag number 1. Then I realized he was not attractive and broke up with him. The most we did was hold hands, so I don't really consider him an actual boyfriend. Story 91. He went to a ski resort with his family and sent me a text saying he is trying to seduce a woman there. Thanks, babe. I am totally okay with that. Please go on. Story 92, 5th grade. I stuttered and was not popular enough. Then she gathered a bunch of her friends, and they threw dodgeballs at me while I was crying. I will never forgive that person. Story 93. I didn't call her all summer between grades, and she lost interest. But also, that was the year she figured out she was gay. It was mostly just a recess thing. I don't think we ever went over to each other's houses. We pretty much just did hand stuff in the woods. Story 94. I was going off to college about an hour and a half away, and we were already arguing about random things over the summer leading up to it. Then we got back together right before I left. Then they cheated. Story 95. Not having privacy at home in Saudi Arabia, I completely ignored my 8th grade sweetheart as if we had never met before. I assumed that since she had more privacy, she would not understand. I went back to dating myself. Story 96. He said, and I quote, "I really like you, but your face is stretchy." I was 14 then, I am 37 now, and I still have no idea what he meant. Not that it would have worked out anyway because he was gay and just had not realized it yet. Story 97. We had fought throughout our 3-year relationship. During the friends with benefits stage, we fought again, and she finally left for good. Story 98. Very first breakup. She said it was easier to have sex with others than with her boyfriend, as she would still see her boyfriend. She said if she was being raped, she would not try to defend herself. She would lie back and accept it. It was maybe 3 months of her treating me poorly when I ended things with her the first time. The second time, she took my virginity and then broke up with me. Same girl. I had my business at the time and couldn't let emotions get involved. It was a really hard week for me, teaching all the customers while knowing this was happening at school. I kept things professional. That same week, I resolved some issues at the high school that ended in violence, but it was settled afterward. She was mostly using me for my money, and I was too naive to see it as a kid. Not saying all girls do that, but she did. Story 99. I had a boyfriend in year 5. He moved house and left the school, and I never saw him again. Joshi, I hope you are doing well wherever you are. Story 100. It was after he yelled at me while I was driving him home, as a somewhat new driver in peak traffic times. I did not speak for the rest of the drive, which was 30 minutes. When we got to his house, he asked me why I was being so difficult, then pressed me to come inside to talk. I still did not speak. I stood at the door for about 10 minutes because I did not want to be there, but I was and remain a pushover and felt like I couldn't leave. He hugged me and said he loved me. I said nothing again and avoided eye contact. I left. That was that. I made it official over text later. I should have broken up with him months earlier, after he yelled at me when my car broke down. Cannot even remember why. I think it was because I called my mom first instead of him. I am not sure why the car triggered him so much. I should have left him then, but I didn't. I was waiting for what I thought was a good enough reason to leave the relationship, and I thought physical abuse was the line. I was very incorrect. Story 101. I thought that couples who broke up and got back together had stronger relationships than before. She had another boyfriend within a day, but I did not. Story 102. The first breakup was with the girl I had pined for throughout high school. During senior year, we dated for a month. I asked another friend to prom because I wanted to have a date and thought the girl I had a one-sided relationship with for years already had a date. I ended up taking the friend because I am true to my word. 3 days after prom, she dumped me to date the guy who took her to prom. That summer, we were both at debate and forensics nationals, and I overheard her telling some other friends that I was too intense. The too intense comment stuck with me. In a stroke of luck, it turns out my amazing wife likes my intensity. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.